fast-growing Nigerian African restaurant recognized globally. This restaurant known as Ile, which is also known as home of pounded yam. Ile is a casual dining restaurant that sells fresh pounded yam and delicious soups based in Lagos, Nigeria.
How's you doing adverts for them now? Is he going to giving us free recipe?
We're going to chop free. He's looking at it. We're going to chop in your.
Hey, Sheriff, do we have free?
We're going to chop in your soon, right?
Yeah.
His brand has won the hearts of so many Nigerians home and abroad as it connects Nigerians back to their cultural heritage. Chef SANNI was born and bred in Lagos. Right from young age, he had a flair for the kitchen. His mother is a very great cook, through which he was officially introduced to multiple African delicacies. SANNI Sharif studied system engineering at the University of Lagos, prestigious University of Lagos. Roll the drums. However, his passion for cooking was undeniable. This passion led him to train further at one of the biggest culinary schools in West Africa, Culinary Academy, here in Lagos. And his brand is built on attracting Nigerian youths by appealing to their passions for new and creative cooking. He founded Feed the Kids initiative, and the reason why he is here on the show with us today, he founded this Feed the Kids initiative out of his passion for humanity and community development. The organization is currently running community kitchens around Lagos, Abuja, and Kwara states respectively, and has successfully distributed over 120,000 meals for the less privileged children in these states, and also created employment for poor widows and women in poor communities. Feed the Kids initiative has also provided educational support for over 200 children in underserved communities since inception. These laudable projects recently earned him an appointment with the ECOWAS Youth Council as a youth ambassador. He has worked as a brand influencer for so many companies, and if I carry on reading the rest of his profile, spend the rest of the day. That will be the entire show. SANNI Sharif, you're welcome to The Other Woman. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
This is salam alaikum.
Thank you for having me.
We not hear your response.
Your audio is a bit low, I think.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, just a bit slow. Your audio is a bit low, but we can hear you.
There is to adjust
These are
your volume. Are you using the headset?
No, I'm not using it.
He's not using the headset.
And I think it's on the loudest. Is it better now?
It's still
very
a bit
faint.
low. It's quite faint.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm sure it will pick up. We can hear you. All right. Aisha Adams, the heavyweight behind Siddiqo Foundation, the owners of numerous projects. I'm not reading out her bio data because this woman is an octopus. She has her hands and legs in so many things that if we attempt to go through, is it the fact that she's a renowned publisher? She's published a lot of books. She's an author. She's a therapist. She's a scientist. She's a public health specialist. Can we go on? Let me just take a pause here. She will be leading us through the world of social enterprise, and I think Miriam is not here yet. She's also expected to join us. Anyways, let's get cracking. Let me settle in with SANNI Case. Beyond all these things that I've read out, is there something else about you that we don't know that you are happy to share with the world? Something about you. She checking best speaker, checking down, see. So you said they media, your leg and they media. Now media stuff I meet you now. By the time media space I meet you, this guy is under octopus. This SANNI Case guy.
And I don't understand why you're calling me octopus when you are staring at one.
SANNI Sharif, right? Two octopuses on the show. Can I handle this? Am I not going to be swallowed? Loye, like
no.
All right, let's just get into what we have today. Aisha, let me throw it at you headlong. Why did you choose to operate in the social enterprise space? What led you to this?
Okay, so Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I would say that what led me there. I would say I've always been an empath. I think that's always the question. That's always the way I like to respond. I would say that I saw empathy, being played out when we're growing up. In how my parents would bring in the stray cat and the stray dog and the stray, like my parents had a talent in just welcoming everybody. Our house was, I usually like to call it a Fuji house of commotion. My father has just one wife, but we have
something children,
like 100 people in a house. I know you used to understand how that was even possible, but that was the case, when we were growing up. So I would say that empathy was played in front of me, and I thought, okay. And then for such a long time, I kept thinking that the way that I needed to show up in the world was in positively impacting on people, and I think that came across in being in different spaces and people finding it so easy to tell me stuff.
Right.
I'm just in a random place, someone I've never met just tells me, and immediately I'm thinking, how do we solve the problem? So I've always been like a problem solver. So I say that then moved me into, okay, how do I add value to humanity? And that's why I even went into study public health. And back then, if you remember, there was the onset of Boko Haram. And when Boko Haram started, it started to become a thing where people were assuming that the reason why Boko Haram was happening was because the Muslims in Nigeria were against, it started to become like a religious problem, really, and whenever there was a blast or something, I struggled to see people rushing, like first aid. Do you see what I'm saying? Like emotional first aid, being there for the victims around, because those are traumatic things. And then there was also the part of faith, right? There's a hadith إلا من ثلاث صدقة جارية أو علم ينتفع بها ولد صالح يدعو له. So when a man dies, all his deeds are cut away except 3. Sadaqatun jariyah, a continuous charity. So basically something that you are using to add value to people.
Right.
And that's the hadith I live my life by, actually. I hope that by the time I leave this world that I'm able to have done those 3 things. And at the time I didn't have a child, so I thought that true being of service to humanity was a way. And I think the last thing was that in trying to look at the space in Nigeria, I observed that the humanitarian niche was almost dead.
Right.
Nigerians appeared to me to be very sympathetic, but then when it came to rallying around to actually give real support to the people going through these challenges, I didn't find that happening.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, yeah. Then what next? Then the person is left to their devices, and you're shocked because you're like, oh my god, I saw 20 people rally around, so I thought this person was taken care of. And so it became a thing where I'm asking myself, with all of these things that you do and with all of these things that you are, how can you add value in this space, since this is who you really are?
Okay.
And thinking about it, having a master's in public health, where I knew that I could be cashing out, I asked myself, what was really the value of life for me? And at the end of the day, I think that death is what is sure. So how do I live my life in a way that I win here and I win there?
Right.
So winning in this world and winning in the hereafter.
Right.
And more importantly, leaving my footsteps in the sands of time. And I think that's how I just decided that, this is where we're going to camp. And although at the time that I started, there were no clear, ways of, monetizing.
We'll come to that in a minute, because I have a lot of questions around how exactly does an NGO, a social enterprise, how do they survive?
What I even wanted to say was that I didn't see how to monetize it, but I just thought, whatever, we'll figure that out as we go along.
Sunny Sharif, can I come to you very quickly? What was it that put it in your heart to come up with this Feed the Kids initiative? What was the trigger point for you, and how has the journey been?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum
Walaikum
salam wa
rahmatullahi wa
rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh.
barakatuh.
So am I audible now?
Very audible, alhamdulillah.
Okay, yeah. So first of all, I'd like to say a special thank you for bringing me on the show.
It's our pleasure.
I'm deeply humbled and honored to be here today. Honestly, starting Free Kids Initiative was born out of the passion that I have always had for community development. From the longest time immemorial, I've always been part of community development one way or the other. Even as far back as my youth service, I was the president of, in fact, during my youth service, I don't know how it was structured, but I just found myself in a community development group.
Right.
I didn't choose it. They just put me in the community development.
Your surah said, this guy now, a guy.
And fortunately, they selected me because it wasn't an election or something. They selected me and they chose me to be the president of the organization. And so now we do that. It's been one leadership role, coming without even any intentions towards it. Sometimes when you're destined for something, you can't really control how this thing will just come and okay, let me take up this responsibility. So I've always been in that space where either catering for people, caring for people, and for me growing up, I've always seen my parents do all of these things. Like what Sidaisha was saying, to be honest, a lot of the things that we do today is as a result of how we were raised. And if you see your parents really caring for kids, caring for families, people that they're not even related to, growing up, there is no how you won't, emulate such commendable, acts and service.
Yes.
So for me, growing up a lot, seeing my parents being compassionate, having empathy for like less privileged people is something that I grew up with, and here we are today. So Feed the Kids Initiative also came up from the fact that this is my field, this is my profession. When I finished from culinary school in 2017, and I realized that where I was living back then, after Juma, I just see a lot of kids on the streets, hungry children begging for money, and I just thought that I was not able to, at the time, it wasn't going to be possible for me to pay like school fees, put them in school and all of that. I knew it was going to take a lot of financial commitment. Now the question is, what's that quick solution that I could prefer then? And also that I cook for people, I cook to earn. Why don't I take some little, cash from what I earn to cook for these kids? And luckily, one of my friends, Brian, the CEO of Nobody Homes and Promises Limited, we're discussing this one day and we're like, how much will it even take to feed these children? This is, if we're just buying the food materials and then cooking the food, it's going to cost us almost nothing. That honestly, he was really down to it and said, I think the following Friday, he said, what's it going to take for us to feed? I think at the time, we had a budget of like maybe 30K or 40K to feed about 100 children. I know it was ridiculously it was a very small amount of money. Went to the market, called a few friends, to come volunteer, and reached out to the kids. There were about, I think that day there were about 40 kids or 50 kids, so they had more than enough. Every other Friday, we now started every Friday. And as a lot of it, people were just coming to donate like different items. Some would come, I want to give the kids cheese balls, I want to give the kids cookies, I want to give them some juice packs, and people were not even asking people for money. It was just people who just thought that we were doing an amazing job, and they just kept reaching out. My food truck literally became like a donor center. Literally every Friday, people are bringing in boxes of stuff, noodles, and all of these things for the kids. And that's how we started. We started from 40 children every Friday till it grew to 300 children every Friday in just Lagos alone. And trust me, we have not, people say, they receive international funding, or they're receiving some grants. We've not received any of these things.
Neither have we.
We've literally just been riding on just family, friends, people who are very thoughtful, people who are very compassionate, and they see that we're doing such an amazing job to the kids on the streets, and we've not even just grown from just feeding, we've grown from feeding to, supporting these kids in school, paying their tuition, and all of these things have just come from family and friends. So like there's for me, I think this is the essence of why we exist as humans. If Allah has blessed you, for me, it's like a trust. It's like a trust that's been bestowed upon you to also impact humanity. That's my orientation. That's my thinking. So yeah, that's been the story so far.
So how old is Feed the Kids initiative?
Feed the Kids initiative will be 5 years officially this year, but we started a year before 2018. But officially, like according to we're going to be 5 in August this year, inshallah.
All right. So both of you, I'm going to throw the same question at you, but let me come to you. How old is Sidiko now?
Like he said, officially. Officially, Sidiko will be 11 in November.
Okay.
But Sidiko is actually 12 because the work started 2012 September.
Yeah. So. I remember when I was the dumping ground.
Yeah, so that's when it started.
Girl.
So yeah, Sidiko started September 2012. But yeah,
official registration and all of that takes it to 11 years now. So the hard question I want to ask you: how do you sustain this, and do you see a future? So both of you, incidentally, unscripted, have said the same thing. But anybody is listening right now, they'll be wondering, did I, is there something going behind? I didn't share, excuse me, any questions with both of them. This is an unscripted, interview session or a gist. We're actually just chit-chatting, and they both tend to be reading from the same script, and that's just because, incidentally, same upbringing. Both parents,
same upbringing.
The families, were raised same way. And so empathy is ingrained in your DNA, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Compassion is a part and parcel of you. And I heard both of you speak so passionately about what you do. Barakallahu fikum. So my worry is, how have you sustained the momentum up to this point? And do you see a future? What keeps you coming back? Let me come to Sherry first. Why do you keep doing it? Why didn't you pack it in? When the number grew from 40 to 300, weren't you overwhelmed? Weren't you scared of how do we carry on? What kept you going? And do you see a future in this space?
Yes. For me, what's been the driving force as for every outreach we have, for every time we go to reach out to these children, it's like there's like a rebirth or a reborn. You see the real life situation of things in real. You can see people in real time. You can see their conditions. You can see how they are. You can see how appreciative, impactful, these meals can be in these communities. And you see how some sort of hope is restored in these children. So every time we have an outreach, it's like we're fueling up the passion that we have. Because I'm not going to lie, because this is humanitarian, it takes a whole lot. It takes a lot of resources, money, time, energy, and the truth is we all have our responsibilities, we have families, we have a lot of people depending on us, and you can get carried away with the fact that, okay, I think let me just pursue something that will give me more financial gains, that will give me financial gains to sort out all my responsibilities and maybe make this a part-time. But for every time, for me as a person, as the president of the organization, every time I visit the outreach ground, there's like, the feeling is never the same. So after such moments, we're back to strategy to see how we can create like sustainable models for us to run this organization for the to eternity if possible. So which is why we started the Feed the Kids community kitchen model. Which essentially is we empowering the locals, the local food business owners in different parts of Nigeria. We set up the canteen, and we have like a registered number of kids that can come into the canteen to feed every day. So what we do is, after funding this canteen, we do like a profit sharing split with the business owners, right? And our dividends.
So your own share of profit is what then is allocated to feed as many mouths as that.
Yes. So we don't collect any cash. We don't collect any sort of cash or anything. So what we're saying is, if we have invested 10 naira in this business, and we're entrusting you to manage everything, all the processes here, we're saying if you're supposed to pay us maybe 2 or 3 naira, you know what? Instead of paying us, use it to buy more food items and feed more kids in your area. So these women are motivated because it's like they've gone from zero
to something,
to it,
and that's a livelihood
with several cash from their pockets. Yeah, so it creates employment. It creates employment for them. Some of the widows in the area, some of the single mothers, are gainfully employed. Their kids also have free meals, and yet it's sustainable. Because one thing is, these people will never ever want to go back to the condition at which we met them. So they will always want to make the business work, and they will always want to feed the kids. So the first one that we set up, it was how we found the woman was because we even heard her story.
You ask you for your selection strategy. How do you decide who gets to run the business? And I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Let me get Aisha to also respond to the same question. How sustainable is this? And 11 years on, how did you decide to keep going? How do you know that I'm not stopping this in spite of all the challenges?
Honestly, I didn't decide.
Okay.
It's and I say that I don't mean that lightly, because I'm sure Sheriff will agree with me that there are days that this thing is really overwhelming. I think there was something he said when he was talking about getting to a community, and it's like a reborn every time you get to the community. Coincidentally, I was just coming from, before the interview, I was just coming from another community that we're going to
for the street kitchen.
For the street kitchen, inshallah, next month. And when I was getting up this morning, I was really exhausted. But then I remembered that there are some families whose life will change by virtue of my coming to their community. Like, the way I always like to explain the work we do is, imagine that you wake up on a day, no hope. You look into your pantry, nothing, and you just pray and you just walk on the street, and someone just gives you food. What does that do for you? How does it make you feel? How does it reignite that belief in God in you? How does it reignite hope, more importantly? So when I say that I don't know how I do it, because coincidentally, when he was talking, I just remembered an incident that happened. I said Sidiko is 12 in September, but when we were 3 years old, I remember that I was frustrated, and my frustration came from So let me backtrack and say, what does Sidiko do? Sidiko supports, struggling families. I call them stigmatized families. So widows, divorces, struggling families with extreme poverty in focus. So people have already given up on them and said, we can't help you and stuff like that. Where literally in those communities, the neighbor cannot help themselves. You don't have anyone in your neighborhood who can support you. Those are the kind of families that Sidiko supports. And it's first to, break down this culture of shame, stop shaming people for their challenges, and second, create community, and support people in communities. Because there are so many communities in Lagos, when a central city, but it's amazing when you get to some localities, you're wondering if you're
still in Lagos or out of
Even where I'm coming from now, it's amazing. It's not far from here, but it's like I'm coming out and I'm like wondering, okay, that's the place, and this is a city, and it's a far cry. It's amazing how you can have such. And the funny thing is that sometimes it's even a wall that separates the rich from the poor, but then the poor still do not get much. So it's like looking at these people and saying to yourself that I did not choose to be where I am. I did not choose to be where I am. It's a ni'mah from Allah. It's a gift from Allah. It's a blessing. And so how do I use my blessing to add value to others? I think that motivates me. But then I called someone. I called Tokwe Fajin, blessing me. Allah bless her. Because that motivation she gave me that day kept me going. I was reaching out to her and wondering, like, how are you doing this? Because she also runs an NGO, and coincidentally they support children, but more important, I think they're focused on education.
United for Kids.
Yeah, United for Kids Foundation. And I was looking at her because there was one time that we met up in a particular community we went. I went there, and then I met someone from the foundation who had come to make inquiries. And we just had banter. So I think I just reached out to her and said, I didn't even know that she had started a longer time than I had. And I'm like, how are you doing it? It's a bit frustrating because at that time I reached out to her. There were a couple of families that needed support. One of such family was a woman whose husband had gotten missing. And she had 3 children to cater to, and it was, becoming very burdensome. And I was like, where are you getting the funding from? What? And like, Sharif said earlier, we also don't have any grants. I have never received grants. Never. It has always been friends and family and people who have seen the track record, crowdfunding, who have seen the track record of the work that we do, who have said, we'll keep, supporting. So it's like, and she's like, you have to keep your head there. You have to continually remember your why. And she said to me, sometimes you compare yourself with someone who is in the afternoon of their work when you're in the morning of your work. And that was just like, and at that point I realized she had started 10 years before me, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, I shall shut up and just go and do the work.
Wisdom.
So it was like listening to her tell me that, you have to continue to remember your why. And I think my own why for me, like I said, is leaving my footsteps in sands of time. But that will seem like selfish. But at the end of the day, I think that sometimes, when your why is personal, it keeps the light bulb, on. It keeps you pushing. And I think the second thing is that I feel like everything that we have been gifted is for us to use. Allah will ask us. He will ask everyone about what you did with what you did with the resources, with your time, with your life, and all of those kinds of things. When I stand before Allah, I hope that I will not be found wanting. And the resources He gave to me is not just for me and for my family. It's also to extend. Because,
just like Sheriff mentioned, it's a trust.
It's a trust. Do you understand?
You will deliver on that
and you will deliver on that trust. So whether you do it or not, I usually tell people like, Allah would not give the idea of a Pentium 7 in a Pentium 3. Just think about it. Your computers, you cannot process a Pentium 3 information on a Pentium 3, on a Pentium 7 on a Pentium 3. And so what it means is that whatever gift you've been given is because you have the capability to use it for leadership, for support, for whatever it is. And when God brings that thing into your heart, you have a choice to do or not to do. There are days when, the work is frustrating. And I'm just like, what? Maybe I should spend more time on my work in therapy and I'll still touch lives. The funny thing? You wake up the very next morning. Like maybe I decided this night.
And messages are waiting for people.
And then I wake up to a message that just breaks my heart and says, Madam, better stay there.
You're not going anywhere.
You go nowhere.
Let me let me come to a question, because subhanallah, how lovely a program we're having, and how they're already winking at me that time is running, subhanallah. So very quick one, Sharif, in your own estimate, do you think that government is doing enough to support your kind of organizations? That's on one hand. And then the second part of the question is your structure and how you stay, how you stay alive, basically. And we were going to talk about how you select those women for empowerment. What's the criteria? Is there a structured manner to select those people? So once you've told us how you select the people you select for empowerment, what then is, on a global scale, how is that impact? How is it being measured? And is government doing enough to support, or do you think your efforts are being seen or even acknowledged at all? Before I go to, the global scale, the SDG thing. Sharif, did he get the question?
Did they?
Sharif, are you still here?
Before he talks.
Okay. So,
actually.
Can you?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, please, can you come again? I was struggling to hear you for a bit.
Okay, I apologize for that. So I asked,
Okay,
it's like a 3-part question. So before I took the mic from you, I was asking me about how you select the people for empowerment. Then I asked if, work is being seen at all. Is it getting recognition? Do you get government support?
Okay.
Okay, there's some more. Okay, go ahead. It's clear.
Okay. Sorry, the children
It's understandable. You feed the kids for a living, for crying out loud. So how about the kids for you too?
You said something about sustainability before he talks. Ready?
He's ready. The kids are not cooperating with him. He said we must have your time. Like, no, you're going nowhere.
But I hope it's not disturbing so much.
We'll manage. I mean, the world knows that you feed the kids for a living. Let's just imagine that you're on a feed the kids outreach. So just carry on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of collaborations with in 2022 the executive governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo, his team reached out. They wanted to do a Christmas outreach, so they selected 3 organizations, which fortunately we were part of them, and they reached out. So it was 10,000 people, children, adults, etc. And so each of us was supposed to feed 3,500. So we did that with the governor. We've collaborated with some really reputable Nigerians, but like I said, this is also coming from referral, it's coming from recommendations from the family and friends, basically the network of people that I've been seeing like our work for the past 5 years, and so for us, it is we doing the work and letting the world know what exactly is going on in these communities. Even without coming through us, you can reach out to these people. When we go to communities where that we can't absorb all their or solve all their problems. We can't take up all the responsibilities to cater for that community. We need as much NGOs, that can come there. The number of people you can take out of the slum. This is not a one NGO thing. It's not even the government themselves can't even handle it. Except they are willing to pump in as much funds and as much care structure as possible. So so we've collaborated with some really reputable people, and honestly, that's what's been sustaining us, and that's what's been keeping us, in terms of finances for our projects. So this and also the amazing volunteers that we have, they also try to reach out to people in their network to see if they can donate, either in cash or in kind, and we've been able to, like, we receive toys from the UK, we receive like educational materials from overseas, and we send them to these communities, so yeah, so the kids, we're trying to give them access to what their peers have on global scale, and alhamdulillah, so far it's been an exciting, interesting journey. The fulfillment that comes with it is you knowing that you mean you're impacting lives. You know that like thousands of people are smiling just because you exist. And you know that one thing for sure is the blessings that will come with all of this is enormous.
Right.
So that
Sorry to cut you, a very quick one. Do you publish information? Do you give reports on your activities? So how do people know what you're doing and how they can reach, apart from those that physically see you? How else do you get across to people to know, this is what we've done so far? I read out some figures earlier when I was introducing you. Is there a structured way of doing what you do, so you're actually measuring your performances and your targets and all of that?
Yes, so interestingly, this is we've been accountable, right? So part of the executive members of Fidiki is actually an accountant, and she handles like the generation of audited reports. Although in the past year we haven't done. In fact, this is coming as a subtle reminder. We try to just have an audited report every year so that we know. It helps us to be accountable. It helps us to know exactly. Yeah, and transparent. Yeah. So when people request these reports, we send them to them as an email. And just to make sure that everything is as transparent as possible.
Right.
And yeah, so that's what we do essentially. If anybody needs any reports from our past activities, we generated them.
Let me come to Aisha very quickly. Thank you so much, Sherry. So Aisha, what would you say is your contribution to the SDG goals? Which of the SDG goals would you say that you are addressing? That's one part of the question. The second part of the question is, if you die this minute, will City Call leave a day extra? Do you have a structure in place that makes it, an entity that can thrive? It's a hard question, but I'm going to.
It's not actually hard for me because I think that the second question is easier to respond to, which is yes. Some years ago, I took ill for about a year, and I was off radar, and Sidiko ran.
Okay.
So I feel like yes, it will live for more than a day.
Okay.
The question is, will it continue?
Okay.
And I like to say that Sidiko is on plug and play. I think I say that often.
Okay.
And on plug and play means that there are SOP documents, clearly written on, this is what we do, this is when we do it. And if you observe, year in, year out, there's like we do this, there's a calendar. There's like we do this project here, we do this project there. Sometimes you move around, you move things around. The only thing though is that the end goal of some of the things that we had planned, we haven't yet hit them. And inshallah, I pray that we do, with more support, funding, and probably more conversations with leaders that can support, because like I said earlier, we haven't gotten any grants, we haven't done any of those stuff that people do, so maybe with grant support we can push further, but I think that Sidiko is already on plug and play, and it just needs better strategy, more support, more financial investment kind of thinking, perhaps having a part of it. And we actually already started that with trainings. I think 2 years ago we did a training that we intend to have as like a self-paced course that people can buy into, almost similar to what he's saying. Because now, to answer the SDG, CDCO touches about 5 to 6 SDGs.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I know, zero hunger, there is education, there is health, because the structure of the work that CDCO does cuts across a couple of things. It talks to support, so emotional, mental support, so well-being. It touches, so SDG 1, 2, 3, 4. I know we do 17 because partnerships. We also, leverage on partnerships with corporate organizations, with individuals looking to do things in the community. There are people that are in diaspora who want to give back to communities in Nigeria, and they're looking for trusted,
Credible organizations to work with.
And because, we have a website where you can download a few of the reports we've had, we share figures of what we have done on our social media pages. We have audited reports for people who are interested, up-to-date reports, actually. We have all of these things. So I would say that to a large extent, we have a structure that a person who wants to continue the work can pick up and run with. And I think that also the fact that family is involved, they see, I make sure that also when I'm going for the street kitchens, it's not just about me, because that's something I have observed and learned from leaders, in the past. There are people who are doing amazing things, but somehow they do not carry their children along. And so when they are...
Because you are who you are today because of how much your parents pumped into you.
Yes. So it's like taking my
touch.
kids, even the last street kitchen, I made sure my daughter was there with me. She was involved. I mean, they've been involved, from time to time, but now,
more actively,
especially because, she's a teenager now, and I'm just like, you know what, you might as well be full in, because I feel like it helps her to not be entitled. There's this entitlement thing that I see with younger generation now, where you just think that you should have it. Should, because of what? The people who do not have it because the point is, stop thinking that because, your father is giving you something, you should have it, I'm hoping that curbs that for her, and it makes her more grateful, So yeah, there's also trying to pass it on. I make sure I have conversations with my children. I make sure that when people come in, they understand that, you can be a part of this. So yeah, I think that, SDG goals, in terms of SDG goals, we're touching on 5 to 6 SDG goals, because of the robust work that CDCO does, which cuts across education, poverty alleviation, community development, health, health and well-being, providing work for the people through the empowerment schemes that we do. And at the moment, I'm in a conversation with another NGO who is looking to take it further. So it's almost like from where we stop, they can take it further. And like he said, there's something Sherry said about collaboration. The more collaboration between organizations, the better we will be able to be effective in the solutions we're providing for the problem.
So that the solutions
the
are more
government,
holistic.
because the government cannot do everything.
Absolutely.
In the developed countries, you see organizations coming up rather than us, and I think the onus lies on Nigerians to see that the more the problems, the more the solutions, and the more solutions you provide, the more the opportunities to earn and grow the community. So rather than sit down and complain and whine about how the government isn't doing anything, the question is, how do 2-3 people come together and profess solutions that brings ease to us, ease to others, and starts to make the community a better place?
Thank you so much, Aisha. As we wind down, Sharif, I'd like to have you, wrap it up in 1 minute. 1 minute. What would you say to anyone that happens on this conversation and can do anything to further your cause? Anyone that listens to this and can do anything, what would you say to that person? It could be a government official, it could be an international body, it could be other NGOs looking to, it could be diasporians, whatever. Someone will happen on this recording and is interested. What would you say to them?
Okay, what I'd like to say is there's millions of Nigerians, there's millions of kids out there, without access to proper, healthy and nutritional meal. There's, I think hunger is a pandemic.
Yes.
If we're going to talk about other pressing issues without acknowledging the fact that if you don't have a decent meal, you can't even be educated, you can't study,
Yeah.
you can't be sane.
You can't
You
even
know,
realize.
just imagine what it feels like even when people are fasting, either Muslims or Christians. You know what it feels like when you have nothing in your stomach for like 10, 11, 12 hours. This is what some people go through every day. They're literally fasting every day. Unintentionally. So this is me saying we need to build more community kitchens. We need to with every support that we're getting, we're definitely need to build more community kitchens in different communities across Nigeria. You know, and we believe this is going to be a sustainable feeding model that will help to impact these communities, and it will also create employment in the long run. You know, so Philippines Community Kitchen is something that we're really, you know, working on to establish across the country.
Inshallah, Allah will make it easy and facilitate it for you, and Allah will send His helpers to, further your cause. Thank you so much, Sherry, for joining us. We'll let you rejoin the kids and, have time with them while I give Aisha the thanks also.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank
Thank you
you so
so much,
much.
Sherry. I'm coming for my.
Sheriff, you've not given us the tickets to Ileyan.
No, we'll go and grab him now. Sherry, you cannot try it.
Done.
Done.
It's done.
When, where, how do you want it? It's done. Just come. Thank you so much.
Any of the branches, so you can just.
What should we go to?
Come with a pot so you can carry the Odo. Nonsense question. Alright, Sherry, thank you so much. We'll let you join the kids and have fun.
Alright, thank you so much for having me.
Actually, on the final note, in your closing remarks, you have people listening and they are here in Bosilico for the first time and they're happy to, work with you. What would you say to them? There's an international organization listening right now or will listen later. How can they reach you? Where can they reach you? What kind of projects do you have lined up that they need to key into?
We have a 13-point agenda right now. That cuts across a couple of things from building wells to supporting families with grants and business loans. We have a partner organization, AAC, that we work with to ensure that they provide business support for people, because sometimes just giving people funds doesn't work. We've observed it. It's things that we have practiced. I love the kitchen model. The solution that Sidiko has is like a 5-pronged approach, which will touch on not just the feeding, it will also touch on mental support, and it will also touch on providing amenities and employing people. So we have a 5-pronged approach solution that we're looking for funding support for, as well as our 13-point agenda for the year. And that 13-point agenda will help us not just provide food. It will also help us, ensure that there is emotional support. It will also ensure that there is water in the communities that, we're working in. It will also ensure that we support people to get fit. For example, there's a Get Fit event, in about 2 weeks' time, which we're partnering with My Ramadan to. So we do a lot of partnerships with organizations that are doing amazing stuff. So we're partnering with My Ramadan to ensure that people are fit. From now till the end of April is fasting for Christians and Muslims. So people need to be aware of there are people who will just drop dead and you don't know why. It's probably because of a health condition that they didn't properly manage and stuff like that. So there are those kinds of tips, because we realize that challenges are multifaceted, and so having just a 1-point approach to the solution, yes, it touches it, but it does not get deep. And we're about depth, about 360 degrees solution. And so if organizations are looking to support, you could pick one of the 13 points, activities that we have to support us on, or you could decide to say, what's the 5-pronged approach? I want to be part of people birthing it. And at the moment, Sidika is working across 10 countries across Africa, because the solution is an African solution. Poverty is an African problem. And it's sad because Africa has a lot of resources. And I think that, yes, a lot of the time we focus on Nigeria, but the global work we did last year made me realize that when you think 1,000 naira is too small, give it to another country and you'll be amazed at how 1,000 naira can actually feed 5 people. And just at that point, you start to say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, because you think that you people are suffering until you hear
it's worse for somebody else somewhere. I wish we can go on. It's time up on this side of the where I sit. It's
and they can follow us on our social media, Siddiqua, SIDDIQAH_CIC. You can check out us on our website, www.siddiquafoundation.org, and our details are there. You can send us a message, DM, whatever, and we will be happy to collaborate with anybody looking to.
Yeah, inshallah, I will drop these handles as well as Feed the Kids initiative. It's been a pleasure having Aisha Adams and Sunny Sharif on the show today. This is how far we can go on the show. If any part of our broadcast has touched you, you can feed us back, drop your comments. Hala will happily respond to you. We'll be back same time next week with another beautiful package of The Other Woman. Until then, stay blessed. Have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and don't try what you did. Don't go a wall again. Right, bye, Masalam.
La música